And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another fantastic installment of Cowboy State Politics Live. From very high above all the puerile and vacuous forms of Wyoming mainstream media, this is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to today's program. This is a big day for me. It's the first time on Cowboy State Politics that we're actually going to have a live phone line so that listeners to the program can call in and participate should they want to. And just at the very beginning, if you want to be part of the program, and again, the studio line isn't open yet, but I'll open it up here in a while so you can call in. I'm thinking at the bottom of the hour at 10:30, we'll have everything open. So if you want to call in, you can, and I'd be happy to talk with you. But if you want to be part of the show, the phone number is 307-374-8989. If you're watching on the Ditto Cam, you'll see on my chalkboard over here, the number is listed on the top. And, when we get closer to it, also on the Ditto Cam, I'll have the number on the screen. But it's 307-374-8989 if you want to be part of the program. And, again, we'll probably start that at the bottom of the hour. But first story, Liz Cheney is back in the news. And, this should come as no surprise to anyone. But it appears, according to the New York Post, that she's been messing around, or she was messing around, with witnesses on the January 6th committee. And I don't think that anybody really thought that she wasn't doing this. I mean, it is Liz Cheney. It's her mission to destroy Donald Trump, and she's going to do that any way that she possibly can. And so tampering with a witness is how you would do that. Well, the New York Post is reporting, and here's the headline: Liz Cheney talked to January 6th committee star witness Cassidy Hutchinson behind her lawyer's back. Damning text messages show. And this is a fairly lengthy article, but it goes through a string of text messages between Liz Cheney, old crickets herself, and Cassidy Hutchinson, the former Trump administration employee that turned star witness, turned redcoat, literally, on the Trump administration. But from the New York Post, and I quote, former Representative Liz Cheney talked to the House Judiciary January 6th Select Committee's star witness behind her lawyer's back. Damning texts released by a congressional committee show as part of an allegedly unethical move to have him replaced with hand-picked attorneys more amenable to the committee's perspective. Cheney interacted with the witness, former Donald Trump White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson, through the ex-Trump Strategic Communications Director, Alyssa Farah Griffin, and later directly in an effort to compel further testimony. Let's see here. In an effort to compel further testimony and have Hutchinson appear for a primetime televised hearing, the one that was professionally produced, the primetime hearing that everybody said was going to be amazing. But in an effort to compel further testimony and have Hutchinson appear for a primetime televised hearing about the 45th president's culpability for the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. though she worked behind the scenes to obtain Hutchinson's juiciest allegations in 2022, some of which were later found to be false. Cheney never mentioned the back-channel talks with Hutchinson or Griffin in her book, Oath and Honor, about the riot. Now, some of these text messages are and basically what happened is Hutchinson was trying very, very hard to get a hold of Liz Cheney. And the first text string is to Alyssa Farah. And it's like, hey, I know that you're busy, but is there a chance that you have touched base with anyone regarding what we talked about last night? And the reply is, yes. I reached out to Liz. She agreed to keep our convo totally confidential. She said she admires you and could tell that you wanted to do the right thing from your testimony. And then there's a brief discussion of if Farah Griffin would contact Liz Cheney directly. And then the next string is between Cassidy Hutchinson and Liz Cheney herself. And the first one says, "Hi, this is Cassidy Hutchinson. I'm sorry for reaching out this way, but I was hoping to have a private conversation with you soon, if you're willing." And of course, Liz Cheney replies, "I would be happy to. Let me know what time works for you." And they go back and forth. And then at the end, Hutchinson asks Liz Cheney, "Please call when you have a minute. I'm worried about the call. I'm worried to initiate the call in case you're tied up with something." And that call actually happened. Now, around the same time that she talks with Liz Cheney, Hutchinson acquires new lawyers from Alston and Byrd, who begin representing her pro bono. House Administration Subcommittee and Oversight Chairman Barry Loudermilk, who recently obtained the text messages from the trio, said the communications revealed Cheney apparently defied her ethical responsibilities while serving as vice chair on the January 6th Select Committee. And this whole thing goes on and on. But it's clear that Liz Cheney was monkeying around with a witness for the prosecution. And, if that weren't bad enough, and here's the thing, guys. Cheney was supposed to be the one that, her book is, Oath and Honor, how she's supposed to be above reproach, how this whole January 6th committee is doing it by the book, and they're going to get Donald Trump and expose all of the evil things that he did. Well, as it turns out, none of it was above reproach. They burned most of the records of the January 6th committee. And now we find out that Liz Cheney was improperly, and Liz Cheney's a lawyer. She knows that what she's doing is absolutely against the rules, if not illegal. And so she's tampering with a witness. And I mean, it's just further evidence that Liz Cheney was not trying to find justice. She was not trying to find out what Trump's culpability in the January 6th riot was. Instead, she's just got a vendetta out, and she's going to try to get Trump in any way that she possibly can. And that's what she's doing. And if it includes witness tampering, she's going to do that. And this is the type of thing, if this were an actual trial, it might end up in a mistrial. The judge would have to say, whoa, the prosecution is monkeying with witnesses. And it's entirely possible that a judge could throw this out of court simply because the prosecution was acting improperly. And so, there's a lot of things with this. And of course, the January 6th committee was not a court of law except that, well, it wasn't a court of law at all. Liz Cheney was trying to make it appear that way. But really, it was nothing more than a Star Chamber show trial to try to damage President Trump for the election that we're now in. I don't know that she was all that successful. I don't know that in any way she really damaged Trump, because I don't think that the vast majority of Trump's base really cares about January 6th. In fact, the entire show trial that Liz Cheney put on is probably used as motivation by many, many Trump voters as the reason why they're going to the polls and voting for President Trump, the reason why we need to get rid of the Harris administration. Now, again, it's really the Biden administration, but I'm pretty sure it's Harris or somebody else who's calling the shots. So it's not the Biden administration anymore. It's the Harris administration. So anyway, Liz Cheney, further problems for her. She's just dabbling in legal matters once again on her mission to get Trump. And, she openly said that she would do anything she possibly could to prevent Donald Trump from being in the White House again. And so violating the law, violating her oath as a lawyer, violating her oath to the Constitution, everything's on the table. And when you look at it in a larger context, Liz Cheney has really never been an actual Republican. Oh, I know. Everybody says she voted with Trump 93% of the time. But if you look at the votes where she didn't vote with President Trump, those are all the big ones. You know, the troops in Syria, any foreign policy type thing, the border wall, funding the border wall, any of that, Liz Cheney voted with the Democrats. In fact, Liz Cheney is the number one co-sponsor of Democrat legislation in the House of Representatives. And so while she hung that R at the end of her name so she could continue to get elected in Wyoming, the way that she acted in Congress, definitely not a Republican. And so it shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that she's engaging in this vendetta against President Trump. And I none of this surprises me anymore. And it's Cricket's Cheney, and we know, and there's this great article that I'm always talking about. It's called the Untold Story of Liz Cheney's tone-deaf candidacy. And it first appeared in the Huffington Post, and it's a reporter that's following around Liz Cheney on the campaign trail when she was running against Mike Enzi. And it is just an expose of every fake and superficial thing that Liz Cheney did on the trail to try to convince Wyoming voters that she's one of us, that she really is Wyoming. Two instances that the reporter talks about in the article. He says that her hands were stained blue because her jeans were so new. And it's a story about how she sent an aide to the Western store to get her a pair of jeans, and by the end of the day, her hands were blue from rubbing her pants so much on the campaign trail. And then there's another story in the article about a pair of boots that she gave to an aide and told them to scuff up the boots so that they looked like they had been worn. So Liz Cheney's never been authentic. She's never really been a Republican, and none of this should surprise anybody at all because Liz Cheney's a fake. Let's see here. Well, coming up, there's Kamala Harris did an interview with this guy named Charlemagne the God. And I really take offense at his name. But anyway, he did an interview, and there's a lot of stuff in there. Even though it was a friendly interview and this Charlemagne character is definitely not a Republican, he tried hard to push Kamala Harris on a couple of different items. And so we're going to take a quick break. I know we're a little bit early on the break, but this article's too long for us to get into. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back and more after the break. Oh, forgot this one leads in. So anyway, after the break, Kamala Harris, Charlemagne the God. Remember, today is Call-In Wednesday. We're going to try to get the kinks worked out of the system. So when we come back, I'll tell you exactly how we're going to do that. I'll open up the phone lines, and we'll get to some calls, hopefully later. But more coming up. You can listen to Cowboy State Politics live every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. on the Independence Network. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Cowboy State Politics is sponsored by FreedomGoldUSA.com. They are the working man's gold company. The economy is in turmoil. The stock market pretty much is out of control, and you never know what's going to happen with your finances or your income. One way that you can shore up everything is by investing in gold and silver. Go to freedomgoldusa.com/David for a free interview to discuss your options and find out if gold or silver is right for you. One more time, that's freedomgoldusa.com/David. Welcome back to the program, my friends. David Iverson, Cowboy State Politics, live on the Independence Network, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. Pretty much everywhere that you want to find me, you can find Cowboy State Politics. It's almost like I'm omnipresent. Well, welcome to the program, my friends. If you didn't catch me at the beginning of the show, today's a big day for us here at Cowboy State Politics. For the first time, we're going to be able to take live phone calls. And if you want to be part of the program, the number is 307-374-8989. That's 307-374-8989. That's the line here in the studio. And probably at the bottom of the hour, we'll go ahead and take some phone calls, and we'll just see how it goes. Be able to talk about anything you want, get my thoughts on it. But just basically today, we're just going to try to work out the kinks and find out exactly how this thing is going to work and if it's going to work well. So anyway, if you want to be part of the program, give me a call. I guess that phone number one more time is 307-374-8989. And if you're watching on the Ditto Cam, I went ahead and put the number up on the screen so you can see it. But before the break, I was telling you that Kamala Harris did an interview with this guy named Charlemagne, and he called out Harris for question filibuster, doing a lot of things wrong with the border in an awkward town hall. And it's awkward because, this Charlemagne guy, he's really on Kamala Harris's side. I mean, he's a Democrat, been a Democrat for a really long time. And so he's trying to help her out. But because the guy actually has some credibility, he's not trying too hard. I mean, he's trying to be fair. He's trying to kind of help her out a little bit, but it doesn't really work. And I quote from the article, radio host Charlemagne the God called out Vice President Kamala Harris for her filibuster of a listener's question on reparations and pressed her on doing a lot of things wrong at the border in a highly anticipated town hall focused on her appeal to black voters. Now, the radio host, whose real name is Leonard McKelvey, tried repeatedly and with little access to knock the 59-year-old Democratic presidential candidate off her talking points during her hour-long interview, which was carried on iHeartRadio's website and streamed live on CNN. Here's that soundbite from when he asked her, "Hey, what do you say to these people that say that you are you're just repeating talking points?" Here's that little exchange.
But what do you say to people who say you stay on the talking points?
I would say you're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, here's the thing. I love having conversations, which is why I'm so happy to be with you this afternoon. And the reality is that there are certain things that must be repeated to ensure that I have everyone know what I stand for and the issues that I think are at stake in this election.
Mm-hmm.
And so it requires repetition. Some people say that until someone has heard the same thing at least 3 times, it just doesn't stay with you. So repetition is important. And for that reason, yes, at my rallies, I say the same thing when I go to Detroit as I do in Philly, as I do wherever I am, to make sure that people hear and receive what I think are some of the most critical issues that are at stake in this election.
There has to be a high level.
Blah, 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 blah. More talking points, more filibustering of the question. And basically she said, I tell them thank you for repeating the talking points. And as we all know, Kamala Harris, really, when she gets on stage, there's very few things she says are different. I mean, a lot of it is this whole stuff.
What can be unburdened by what has been. What can be unburdened by what has been.
Yeah. On and on and on. Well, anyway, continuing with the piece. Quote, "I'll try to be on time. Apparently, I'm 40 seconds late." Harris opened her only announced event of the day during a trip to Detroit, just 21 days before the November 5th election. Well, when Kamala Harris said, "I'll try to be on time," Charlemagne says, "Well, you're black." I mean, I guess if you're an African-American radio host, you can make jokes like that. If you're not, they come off really, really racist. And so there are certain things Kamala said in the soundbite. There are certain things that just must be repeated to ensure that I have everyone know what I stand for and the issues that I think are at stake during the election. And so it requires repetition. McKelvey pressed Harris hard on issues such as foreign aid to other countries, which former President Donald Trump has campaigned on restricting, on her past prosecuting of marijuana offenders, and her role as retiring President Biden's point person on reducing illegal immigration, which instead surged. When a listener expressed concern that Trump, who is vowing to deport mass illegal immigrants, might put anyone that doesn't look like us, that doesn't look white in camps, Harris brought up the border. Quote, yeah, so you've hit on a really important point, and I expressed it, I think, so well, which is he is achieving his intended effect to make you scared. He prefers to run on a problem instead of fix a solution, and we got to call it out and see it for what it is. Well, this is classic Kamala Harris. She doesn't ever really answer the question, and there's a lot of examples in there. But let's see if we can find another one here. Let's just go. I've got a list of sound bites, so let's just go ahead and hit this one.
One of the biggest challenges that I face is mis and disinformation. Mm-hmm. And it's purposeful because it is meant to convince people that they somehow should not believe that the work that I have done has occurred and has meaning.
The biggest problem that Kamala Harris faces is with misinformation and disinformation. Well, really, when you get down to it, the biggest problem that Kamala Harris faces is people don't know who she is. Even if you're a Democrat and you're thinking about, and you're a halfway thinking Democrat, there are some that are just entirely partisan and are going to vote for Kamala Harris regardless. But if you're halfway thinking about things and you're trying to figure it out for yourself, well, you want to know who she is. And I think that in general, people have no idea who Kamala Harris is because she has flip-flopped on so many things. Now, there's a long list of them that I could give you, but here's just one of them. This is her on fracking.
Do you still want to ban fracking?
No, and I made that clear on the debate stage in 2020 that I would not ban fracking. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yes, and starting with what we can do on day one around public lands, right?
So there you go. Just one example, but she's done that repeatedly throughout the campaign trail, just flip-flopping on positions that she had before. And there's a really long list of them. Really, everything that she was before 3.5 years ago, she's now in favor of now, and vice versa. Things that she was in favor of then, well, she's totally against now. And it runs the gamut. I just played for you one example of that. So now back to Charlemagne and the interview. Charlemagne interjected, but doesn't the Biden administration have to take some blame for the border, though? There's a lot of blame because, I mean, the first 3 years, y'all did get a lot of things wrong on the border. And, you know, she just kind of responded and sort of tried to blow off the question. She pivoted into a lengthy recitation of campaign talking points, saying that the first thing we dropped was a bill to fix the broken immigration system, referring to legislation that would have provided a pathway to citizenship for nearly all illegal immigrants in the United States, which Republicans said would prompt more to come without legal permission. So didn't really answer the question. So now she was asked by one of the guests on the show, and this guy was a African-American minister. And I want to play for you his question, and then we're just going to kind of talk about it. But here's his question.
Reverend Solomon Kinlock Jr., I want you to meet him. He is the senior pastor of Triumph Church. Where's Reverend Kinlock?
Oh, he's here.
Come on, tell Secret Service, move out the way. It's okay. It's just the Reverend. Yeah, all right.
Hey, Reverend.
What's up, Reverend?
Madam Vice President Charlemagne,
yes,
thank
sir.
y'all for being in Detroit tonight.
Thank you.
Recently, Madam Vice President, by one of Trump's surrogates from the black faith-based community, you've been criticized by him and others for your lack of engagement to the black church. Knowing that the black church is an unrivaled place in the heart of black people, what could you speak to as it relates to a future Harris administration, how you would partner with the black church to address some of the urgent needs of the black community. Dr. King talked about the fierce urgency of right now, and as a church, Triumph Church is in that place.
So first of all,
Okay, so hold on just a second. So his question basically is, how are you going to work with the church? What policies are you going to enact to include the church? Now, this is one of Kamala's flip-flops, because, of course, she's running for election right now, and she wants every vote that she can get. But Kamala Harris is a Marxist and I looked before the show if I could track down and find real easily her talking about the separation of church and state and how the church doesn't have any role in government. I'll track one of those down for tomorrow's show. But there's no way that Kamala would be in favor of government being involved with a church. And yet, here's the question. Now, listen to her answer.
that allegation, of course, is coming from the Trump team, because they are full of mis and disinformation, because they are trying to disconnect me from the people I have worked with and that I am from, so that they can try and have some advantage in this election, because otherwise they have nothing to run on. I grew up in the black church. I grew up attending 23rd Avenue Church of God in Oakland, California.
That's church.
Yes, that is church. My pastor is Amos C. Brown of Third Baptist Church in San Francisco, California.
Yes.
I have, throughout my career and as vice president and recently, been actively engaged in the church and church leaders, not only so we can share in fellowship, but so we can share.
Yeah, I know. Your head is about to explode. Mine is too. Fortunately, before today's episode, I wrapped my head pretty tight with duct tape so that all the pieces of my head wouldn't bounce off the walls when it exploded. So I was planning ahead. But this is her filibustering the question. Now, remember what the question was. How are you going to work with the church? How are you going to do that? So it's a question of how. He's asking for a plan, and what he's getting from Kamala Harris is gobbledygook. Here we go.
In what we can do together that is about supporting the community, the strength of the community, the cohesion of the community. And it is my long-standing work, and therefore my pledge going forward. I will always work closely with the church, because I understand who our church leaders are and who the congregation is. We are talking about people who are driven by faith and the ability to see what is possible. By faith, where I was raised, and I know many of us were, understanding that our God is a loving God, that our faith propels us to act in a way that is about kindness and justice and mercy, that is about lifting one another up.
Okay, so does any of that, and I can't take any more of it, but does any of that sound like the Marxist that Kamala Harris is? Would you expect that any of that discussion of faith would come from an avowed Democrat? Well, the answer is no. She really doesn't believe it, because it's straight up pandering. And that's what Kamala Harris is famous for, just pandering. Now, there's a lot more to this, and I would love to cover it, and we'll pick it up after the break. But right now, I want to do something just to get the live call-in started on Cowboy state politics. I'm only going to do this once, but I just want you to hear how this thing sets up. And so I'll just get it set up here, and you can hear me. And again, this is just because we're starting this for the first time on the program. So here we go.
Thank you for calling Call-In Studios host and call screener line. Please enter your show or meeting number and press pound. Enter your 6-digit PIN number. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Call-In Studio web interface.
All right, so there we go. The phone lines are open, and whatever you want to talk about, go ahead and give me a call if you want to be part of the program. The number is 307-374-8989. Go ahead and give me a call. Whatever you want to talk about, we'll do it. And we'll start right after the break. So let's take an obscene profit timeout, and then we'll get to your calls. I'm so excited about this, my friends. I have to tell you. I've been working on this for 4 years, trying to figure out how to do it, and I am stoked that I finally got it done. Oh, I can't wait to get to this. Coming up right after the break. don't know if you've noticed this or not, but it's hunting season. And one thing that you can be absolutely certain of is while you're tromping around in the boonies, at some point, it's going to snow. A lot. And you definitely want to make sure that you keep your feet nice and toasty warm. The best way that you can do that is to order a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the warmest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Wyoming is one of the most sought-after places to live. There's a lot of people that want to move to our great state. And if you're thinking about selling your house to one of them, you need a real estate agent that you can trust. That agent is Rebecca Bextel at Compass Real Estate. She's lived in Jackson for almost 20 years and has her fingers on the pulse of the real estate market. Last year, she sold almost $25 million worth of property. So if you're thinking of buying or selling, give Rebecca a call. Her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get stronger. A new day, a new way.
Watch out! Cowboy state politics is only going to get stronger. The show is only going to continue to expand from every county in this state to every state in this country. It's Cowboy state politics. Welcome back to the program, my friends. David Iverson behind the silver Cowboy state politics microphone, documented to be almost always right 99% of the time. Welcome to the program, my friends. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number is 307-374-8989. That's 307-374-8989. The phone lines are open. If you call in, you'll hear a little prompt, and it'll ask you to tell me who you are, what you want to talk about, and then when I get to a point where I'm ready to bring you on the air, you'll hear a little beep, and then we'll just go from there. So if you want to give me a call and talk about something, there's the number, 307-374-8989. So before the break, we were talking about this dumb interview with Charlemagne, so-called Charlemagne the God, and Kamala Harris. And one of the more interesting pieces that came out was a question about slave reparations. Now, this Charlemagne character, this has been one of his major shticks for a long time, and it's amazing that a presidential candidate with 20-some days left into the election would actually come out in favor of reparations. Now, while she doesn't exactly come out explicitly, you can listen to her answer and say, yeah, she's just totally pandering. But here's that exchange.
My question to you is, what's your stance on reparations? We all know that America became great, off the backs of free black labor. How progressive are you on making it a priority and righting America's wrongs? It's understood that you are running for president for all people of America. Mm-hmm. Asking for specifics for black communities doesn't mean don't do for others, but black Americans are heavily asked to vote Democrat in every election for over half a century with very little in return. What are your plans to address these very important issues and change that narrative?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Zeke.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And thank you for your work. So to your point, yes, I am running to be a president for all Americans. That being said, I do have clear eyes about the disparities that exist and the context in which they exist, meaning history, to your point. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position. In terms of my immediate plan, I will tell you a few of the following. One, as it relates to the economy, which is a lot of what you have addressed, Look, I grew up
A
in the
middle-
middle class.
There we
My
go.
mother, worked hard, raised me and my sister, and by the time I was in high school, she
Okay, so let me just tell you what happened there. So she agreed, yeah, we got to look at reparations. And it's total pandering to the audience. And then she realizes the all crap moment and decides, oh no, I've got to get myself out of this. And I grew up in a middle class family. It's that common refrain, the common talking points that she's been using this entire election. And anytime Kamala Harris gets nervous, you can tell she reverts to either a word salad or just a dumb platitude talking point that all of us have become pretty tired with. Let me just give you one of them, and this is I meant to put this in a bigger montage for you, but we hear stuff like this all the time.
I grew up understanding the children of the community are the children of the community.
Yeah, the children of the community are the children of the community. Absolutely ridiculous. But the long and the short of this is a candidate for the office of President of the United States just agreed that we need to look at slave reparations, which would be spending trillions of dollars on reparations. From the Blaze, and I quote, Vice President Kamala Harris signaled during an interview on Tuesday that she was open to spending taxpayer money on racial reparations, which studies show would cost trillions of dollars. Quote, it has to be studied. There's no question about that, Harris said. And what I've been very clear about that position. And just another radical position from Kamala Harris it's just another reason why we shouldn't vote against. We should absolutely not let her anywhere near the White House. Well, on today's program, we're taking live calls. If you've got a call and you want to talk about something, the phone number in the studio is 307-374-8989. That's 307-374-8989. Go ahead and give me a call, whatever you want to talk about, and we'll do it. There's a report out from Sheridan Media. The scores from the Wyoming Test of Proficiency and Progress, known as YTOP, and the Wyoming Alternative Assessment, or YALT, scores are in. And big shocker here, they're just as bad as they were last year. From Sheridan Media, and I quote, although Wyoming was the first state in the nation to have students return to classrooms and was only one of 7 states to achieve a 95% assessment participation in 2021, the scores haven't yet returned to pre-COVID levels. So we're still not teaching kids how to read. However, unlike many states, Wyoming has resisted the trend to change performance levels and has maintained a high rigor of previous assessments to properly gauge student learning. This approach allows educators and parents to have accurate data to show if students have recovered from the COVID lockdowns. Quote, while I'm disappointed that our assessment scores have not yet caught up with pre-pandemic levels, I'm proud that we've not lowered the proficiency bar like we have in other states. In Wyoming, we will unabashedly hold our standards high and push for excellence. And this is what Megan Degenfelder said. Now remember, and I've been a fan of Superintendent Degenfelder. She has surprised me in many of her stances. Generally speaking, I think that she's done a pretty good job. The problem, though, is she came out, a couple of weeks ago and said, well, we need to kind of lay off of all of this testing. That's the one way that we can improve education in Wyoming. I don't think so. When your YTOP scores show that you have not even got back to pre-pandemic levels, which, by the way, pre-pandemic, only about 40 to 50% of tested 8th graders were reading at a proficient or higher level. Only about 40 to 50%. So half the students that go through our schools, we can't even teach them how to read. And we're wondering why we're having a problem in the workplace and at community colleges and other universities. I use this conversation a lot, but a while ago I walked into Sheridan College and asked them, hey, what percentage of incoming freshmen do you have to put in remedial classes, either English or math or whatever? And what they told me was about 70%. Now, of course, this is just anecdotal, and I was just talking to one admissions officer. So, the numbers may not be accurate, but I think the high number that she gave me is pretty indicative of where we're at. When you're only teaching, 40 to 50% of the students how to read, man, we've got a serious problem. And even though we've stepped up all of the money that we give to Wyoming schools, that we spend on Wyoming schools, we're still not at pre-pandemic levels. Now, the response of the liberals, of the Wyoming Education Association, is going to be, well, you need to spend more money. We've got to spend more money on education. And, that's what's going to solve our problem. Well, guys, we already spend about $20,000 per student. And that's last year's number. I haven't seen what the per student price is this year. So around 20 grand per student, and students cannot, you can't even read at a proficient level. Their math scores are slightly better. Like, for example, in the Sheridan Media article, let's see here, Wyoming's 2023-2024 assessment results were relatively stable compared to last year. So what that means is they still suck. And compared to last year, student proficiency decreased by 0.2% in English and by 0.3% in science, but both have remained steady since 2021. Math proficiency increased by 0.5% and has been steadily increasing since 2021. Okay, well, if we're steadily increasing by 0.5%, I don't really see how any of this is a win. I don't see how we're getting better, and it certainly doesn't justify all of the tremendous amounts of money that we're spending. Now, here's some state averages at the bottom of the Sheridan Media piece. And I quote, students are tested in math and English and language arts grades 3 through 10. The biggest increases in math were in fourth grade, up 3.44%, third grade, 2.55%, and in 10th grade, up 2.19%. The biggest increases in language was in 10th grade. That went up 4.6. Fourth grade went up 4.19. And let's see here, the biggest increase in science was in fourth grade and grade 8. But none of these things are we actually showing a marked improvement. Not a single one of them. And it's an absolute disgrace. And you'll hear Wyoming Education Association officials say, oh, our scores are going up. Well, when you're kind of in the bottom of the barrel, if you go up from a 40%, which is still an F, to even 50%, which they're not even increasing that much, that's still an F. It's still bad. And just because you've had an increase or a decrease in the level of bad does not mean that you're doing a good job. And it certainly doesn't justify the huge amounts of money that we're spending on education. I mean, this thing blows my mind, my friends. Schools in Wyoming are in no way broke. And the truth is, a couple of years ago, this is one of my favorite statistics. It was one of the members of the education committee, and he told me over the past 3 years that, and this is again from a year and a half ago, so getting our way back machine, but that enrollment in Wyoming schools is actually going down. It went down about 1,900 students, and during that same time period, so 3 years, administration and staff went up 3,600 positions. So enrollment is going down, staff went up 3,600 positions. And so we're not focusing on education. We're not focusing on teaching kids. We're not focusing on increasing their scores. Rather, what we're doing is paying administrators. And that's where the bulk of your money is going. So any argument to the contrary is a load of crap. And it infuriates me. And it should infuriate you because, a giant 60% of your property taxes go to the schools in mill levies. So, you should be just absolutely infuriated by this. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and afterwards, hopefully we can take a couple calls, but we'll do that after the break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit of music, and then Hunter Biden's back in the news. I know you've missed that guy, so we're going to talk about him coming up, and take your calls. So 307-374-8989. Give me a call, and we'll see what's on your mind. Up next. are listening to Cowboy State Politics Live on the Independence Network. You're not going to find a selection of better news, entertainment, and commentary than right here on the Independence Network, with great voices like Joey Carenti from Just Blame Joey, Ken Pendergraft from The Ramble Room, Tom Kelly from Wide Right Turn, and the lovely Christine from The Hair Affair. And of course, my program, Cowboy State Politics, Wyoming's most listened to political program. Also, don't forget to check out the articles section at the website, independencenetwork.us. It's loaded with op-eds, commentary, and news from all around the Cowboy State. You can listen to the Cowboy State Politics podcast anywhere that you get your podcasts. iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, really any of them will work. But the easiest place is just to go to the website, cowboystatepolitics.com. There you can find all of the shows, as well as any of the articles that I might bring up during the course of a program. That way, if your name is Joe Biden and you can't remember if you had your pudding today, well, I probably can't help you with that, but I can definitely tell you why you should have never ran for president. And now, back to our program. Welcome back to the program, my friends. David Iverson behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone, doing what I was born to do with talent given to me by God himself. Thank you for listening to the program, my friends. Without you, I wouldn't be doing this, and I appreciate every single person that listens to the program. On today's show, we're trying to get the kinks out of the live call-in, and so if you want to be part of the program, give me a call. It's 307-374-8989. You'll hear a little prompt, and then I'll let you in. You'll hear a little beep when you're on with me, so we'll go ahead and do that here in just a second. Let's go to the phones. Welcome to Cowboy State Politics. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing great. Who am I talking to?
Jerry Jackson, Rock Springs, Wyoming.
Hey, Jerry, how's it going this morning?
It's going pretty good. I think I just got everything put up, ready for winter.
Excellent. Up here in
All
Sheridan.
my hoses and stuff.
Yeah? Well, up here in Sheridan, we're getting ready for what I hope is a big, giant snowstorm. Maybe it'll knock down some of these fires.
Yeah, I hope so. We sure need it up there. Ranchers are hurting.
Oh, man. You know, I'm wondering when Governor Gordon is going to spend some of that $350 million of taxpayer money and actually fight some carbon emissions up here.
Well, he will as soon as he can call it something to do with the Green Deal.
Yeah. So what are you in the mood to talk about today, Jerry?
Well, I was just wanting to thank you. You know, I really enjoy your program. I try to get it out as much as I can, and I hate it when I miss it. It feels like the day's not just right.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It's, I'm super excited to be able to take live calls and talk to people who are listening to the program. I've been trying to do this for 4 years, and it's hard for me to explain how big of a day this is for me to be able to talk to people who are actually listening to the program. So thank you very much for listening.
All right. And God bless you, and God bless our republic.
Yes, sir. You have a good day, Jerry. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
There we go. First call into Cowboy State Politics. Again, if you want to be part of the program, the number is 307-374-8989. That's 307-374-8989 if you want to be part of the program. Again, like I was telling Jerry, It's I have been waiting for today for so long. When I started Cowboy State Politics, I wanted to have a radio talk show, be able to talk to listeners, and it's only until today that I've finally been able to do it. So this is a big day for me on the program. Again, if you want to be part of the show, it's 307-374-8989. Go ahead and give me a call, and we'll see what's on your mind. Let's see here. From the Daily Caller. Now, Hunter Biden, maybe he's just decided that that his name has been out of the news for long enough, and he just has to get back in it. Well, he is now relaunching a lawsuit against Fox News for allegedly misusing explicit images of him obtained from the Hunter Biden laptop. And I quote, Hunter Biden reignited legal action Tuesday against Fox News, accusing the media giant of illicitly showcasing explicit images of him in a streaming series. Hunter filed the suit in a Manhattan state court, mirroring allegations presented in a now dropped July filing that the unauthorized spread of intimate images breaches New York's revenge porn law, according to the Associated Press. The allegations stem from the trial of Hunter Biden, a Fox Nation series that dramatized a court proceeding against Hunter on fictitious charges, distinct from the real-life felony firearms convictions that he faced. The new filing includes a former Fox executive as defendants, the AP reported. Fox News responded, seeking to transfer the lawsuit. Here's what Fox News had to say about it. Hunter Biden's now second lawsuit against Fox News is once again devoid of any merit. The core complaint stems from a 2022 streaming program that Mr. Biden did not complain about until sending a letter in late April of 2024, a Fox News spokesperson told the Daily Caller. Quote, the program was removed within days of that letter in an abundance of caution, but Hunter Biden is a public figure who has been the subject of multiple investigations and is now a convicted felon. Consistent with the First Amendment, Fox News has accurately covered the newsworthy events of Mr. Biden's own making, and we look forward to vindicating our rights in court. So, Hunter Biden reigniting the lawsuit against Fox News. And I'm sure it just has to do with his name not being in the news cycle for a while, and he just had to get it out there again. Since Kamala Harris was successful in her coup against Joe Biden, the Bidens have kind of been out of the news. They're old news. Jill and Hunter and Joe, well, they're not part of the story anymore. And it's one of those things, man, when your name gets up in lights and then it goes down and nobody wants to pay attention to you, you kind of miss it. And so evidently that's what's happening with Hunter Biden. Let's see here. We've got about 6 minutes left in the show. By the way, we got enough time for another call. 307-374-8989 if you want to be part of the program. So I know that you've noticed this, but the music industry is in some ways going straight to hell. And in many ways, they're trying really hard to get there quickly. But there's an article in The Blaze that artist MIA explains that Cardi B, and I don't know who any of these artists are. I'm just assuming that they're really terrible, and that's probably why I'm not aware of any of their songs, are destroying the music industry. And I quote, British rapper and record producer MIA recently made an appearance on the James Polo's Zero Hour. The duo broached a number of subjects, including paper planes, singers, anti-big tech clothing, therapy addiction in the West, tyranny in the UK, and of course, the music industry as a whole. On the latter subject, MIA was candid about the decline of music due to the influence of Satanism and the AI programming that paves the path for it. A quote, where do you see music going? And do you think that music is doing what it needs to be doing for us as human beings? Quote, and here's the answer from rapper MIA. Music is healing, and it can change a lot of people's mood or vibe, and I think it's been hijacked because it became a business, MIA explained, adding that as an artist, quote, you have to put your music through the channel of an industry, and it gets corrupted. This is the image that has to be put with this song, and the girl has to look like this, and she has to do this dance, she said, regurgitating what artists are told by producers and marketing personnel. As a newer Christian, MIA pointed to Satan as the root cause of the music industry's degeneracy. Quote, Satan was the director of music, you know. It's a great tool to get people because music directly accesses your spirit. So you bypass the mind and your soul and your logic. There's a level of responsibility to practice when you make music and a level of knowledge that you have to have. And she explained that what is cool in our modern culture is never really that. She says, what is cool is Satan's playground. Now, unfortunately, artificial intelligence has become integral to the music industry. While MIA says that AI in and of itself is basically a fun toy, the programmers of AI are what's problematic. Being keenly aware of what sells, these people design AI to essentially do Satan's bidding. Let's see here. All right, there we go. Let's see here. She points to popular musicians Cardi B and Ice Spice, again, two people that I have no idea who they are, who are likely popular because they're skirting very close to porn. It's like merging OnlyFans and the music industry is where we're at, she added, adding that this is why she's taking a time out. Now, this conversation went on for quite a while, and the only reason I find it fascinating is I've been kind of, I guess, feeling the same thing for a while, that the entire music industry is kind of going straight to the crapper. And, you know, I guess I'm getting old, and, you know, I kind of feel, I understand what my dad felt like when I was young and all these new songs are coming out and he stuck to his straight up rock and roll. But I've got a subscription to satellite radio, and I find myself listening to, the same old 90s, 2000 rock, and before classic rock. But a lot of the songs that are coming out now, man, I just don't like them. They don't have a good beat. They don't make me feel good. And a lot of it, and again, and here's an argument too, that most rock and roll has always been about either sex and drinking or alcohol and drugs. I mean, it's all of those things. And, you know, women in love and men in love and all of that. But a lot of it, you know, revolves around some of our baser feelings, baser interests as a culture. And so anyway, but I think that this MIA chick has got it right, that you have to keep all of that in perspective. And instead, what you're seeing is a lot of music that really has become kind of porn. And I don't really like that. I don't think it's appropriate. And frankly, the songs that are coming out, I really don't find them attractive at all. They're not. I can't tell you when the last time a song came out that I got it stuck in my head. And maybe I'm just getting old. I don't think so. I agree with Tom Petty. If you never slow down, you never grow old. Well, anyway, my friends, we've got about a minute and a half left in the program. Let me tell you what's coming up the rest of the week. For the podcast, I'm going to replay today's episode, and it's only because it's a first for Cowboy State Politics. The first day that we were actually able to take a live call from one of our listeners, that made me extraordinarily happy. You have no idea. And so I'm going to replay today's live program for the podcast. And on tomorrow's program, we're going to continue on with the news. And then on Friday, we're going to do Open Line Friday. All program long, I'm going to keep the phone lines open so you can just call in and talk about whatever you want to talk about. Here's the rules on Fridays. You pick the topics. We'll talk about what you want to talk about. On any other day that I've got the phone lines open, well, you're going to have to talk about what I want to talk about. So anyway, thank you for listening to the broadcast. I really appreciate you listening to Cowboy State Politics, the podcast, the live program, the Independence Network, everything. And make sure that you keep everything tuned to the Independence Network. You're not going to get a better source of news and information than you will right here. So thank you for listening. And for now, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is Cowboy State Politics.